This camera weighs almost 30 pounds. It's very heavy, just the way I like it. Why are cinema cameras so big? One word, control. There are so many different types of cameras, but this is the camera that I choose to film with. This camera is perfectly customized to my kind of shooting. Every filmmaker has their own special style and their own way of seeing the world. And your camera should be the extension of your cinematic eye. If it's different than somebody else's, that's fine. Your eye is different. The way you work is different. The way you see the world is different than anybody else. Don't be afraid to make your camera the way you want it to look and not the way somebody else tells you to. In this video, I'm going to take apart this camera and show you piece by piece what everything does here, why I chose this equipment. In the description of this video, I'm going to link to all of these products. So if you want to buy them as well, you can. There's the camera body. This camera is not very heavy by itself, but without all these accessories, it's just not the same. This camera is the Blackmagic Design Ursa Mini Pro 4.6K G2, which I think is a horrible name for a camera, but it is what it is. I love this camera because it has built-in neutral density filters that allow me to change my exposure very quickly and maintain a specific aperture with my lens. There are a few weak points to this camera. It's not particularly good in low light. The menu system is incredible. Blackmagic RAW is fantastic. It looks pleasing. It's a very pleasing image. Also, the skin tones with this camera respond very well. And I'm just a big fan of this image that Blackmagic creates with this camera. It's a Super 35mm sensor, which I'm totally fine with. I haven't shot full frame since I shot with the A7S II. I love this camera, it's a fantastic camera, but without all of these accessories, this camera just isn't the camera I want it to be. I want more control. And with each one of these accessories, I get that control. First, when I'm building up this camera, I put the base plate on. This base plate here is great because what I can do is I can put the camera on my shoulder, or I can put this onto a tripod very quickly. It's a quick release tripod mount or a shoulder mount. And I'll show you later how this goes onto a tripod. Next, I will put the rails in. These are 15mm rods. I think the standard is normally 20 or 15 millimeters. Next, I will place the top plate on here. I really like this top plate. This is from a company called SmallRig. I'm a big fan of SmallRig. I like all of the stuff that I've bought from them. What's great about this is it comes with this awesome top handle. And Blackmagic has a top handle that comes with their Ursas, but I don't like it. But I like this. It's bigger. I can actually hold it. It's stronger. And you can put a rod through the top part. You can put two rods through the top part. This doesn't go in very easily. Okay. At this point, I will now put on the lens. And I'll talk about this lens in a minute. I will also put on this. I really like this. This is called a shark fin, and I'll link to it in the description. This is from a company called Core, and this allows me to put two V-mount batteries on the back of the camera. The reason why I like to have two V-mount batteries is so they're hot swappable. I don't have to shut down the whole system just to change out the battery. So as soon as they're basically both drained, I'll replace one battery and a few minutes later replace the other one. I'll never have to turn off the camera this way. I'll be able to leave it running all day. I very rarely will shut down the camera when I'm working. I want to leave the camera running at any moment because you never know when you're gonna need to get the shot. I bought this a while ago and I really love it. I can make my one D-tap connection on this camera into 4. There's a D-tap connector on the back of this camera, and that's not enough because I have too many things to power. So I just wrap this cable around the back of the handle. It's probably not the smartest thing to do, but it works. Now I've got 4 D-tap power options right there, ready to go. I also have this power option, and I'm going to power the Teradek through there right now. So I'm going to screw this in and tighten it. Might as well put this on too. I have this is from Edelkrone, it came with something. And these little tools just magnetize to it, and it's the perfect size to tighten down these arms. So I just keep that on the camera. I've Velcroed it onto the camera so I can always get to it. I love these. These are also from SmallRig, and they're the only arm I like. I think it's called the Magic Arm, but I'm not sure. I'll link to it below so you can get it. This arm is always secure. It always works. I love it. Never gives me any problems. Okay, so here is the Teradek. And this allows us to have wireless video so somebody can watch it besides me. And I usually like to place it right about here. I'm going to first plug it in. Here's the power for the Teradek transmitter. It's the Teradek transmitter. So this will be plugged in for power into the camera. Teradek is going to live here, and that's where I will place it. Make sure it's locked in tight. I've got this cool little SDI cable. I like these kind of SDI cables because they last a long time. I always count on replacing an SDI cable every couple years though. They go bad. I don't know why. They just do. Just count on it. This camera has 2 SDI outs. So I'll plug this into the one on the side of the camera. So there's that. Now this will be able to get power and a signal from the camera and then send it out. Next, I'm going to attach the monitor. The other reason why I love this handle is there's so many places to attach things. Oh, I didn't mention, I've taken off the side handle on the camera and placed a SmallRig plate so I can attach more things to this area. This monitor is from Blackmagic. I also love the small HD monitors, but I picked this up a while ago and I love it because it's really bright. This monitor is so bright that even in the middle of the day, outside in the bright sun, I can still see exactly what I'm filming. It's kind of big and bulky, but I'm willing to live with it because it's so bright. Being able to see the image that you're filming is very important. I usually like it about there. Okay, now we're gonna power it with the battery adapter power. This is a Sony LPF dummy battery adapter. Plugs into the back. And I plug this, I don't plug this into here. There's one more D-tap on the back that I plug it into to power it. And I've got the SDI that I plug in as well. It's time for the fun part. We're going to attach first this. This is supposed to go on the front handle of a shoulder rig. I don't do it that way. I'm weird. I like it this way. And you'll understand by the end of this video why I do this. I attach this here, and it has to be done correctly. Otherwise it doesn't work. This has to be up a little bit. I've been doing this for a while now, and I just love it. So on this hand controller, I can control the camera zoom and the camera focus. This is from a company called, I forget. I'll link to this in the description. I think it's the Nucleus M. Yeah, it's the Nucleus M from Tilta. This is where I control the lens. And let's set up the rest of the lens controls. This is for the zoom. And I've labeled both of these, zoom and focus, so I can remember, because they're both programmed very specifically. Every time I go out of town and I have to break down this camera and put it in a case for flying, first thing I do is I go back to my hotel room and I have to put it all back together. And it takes a long time to get this camera all ready to go and set. So I'm attaching them to the lens with this top rail. And I like it on the top because then I can see easier what's going on, and it's away from the lens, so I can see the lens on this side for my focus, so I can see what millimeter I'm at and where I'm focused at, but I can still see the controls on this side. Okay, so there's different types of cables. This cable will attach to one of these and then communicate to the camera so I can push record on this handle. This is a daisy chain cable that I will put between, this is the one I always do first. I put this one between these two controllers, and I tuck the cable back here. And then I power this first one, plug it in, and I take the cable and wrap it up, and then I plug it in to the D-tap to power it. This doesn't take too much power. This cable will communicate to the camera so I can push record on the handle. I'm going to plug that in. And this last cable is going to plug into the hand grip so I can power it through the camera. This does take batteries, but I don't like to deal with too many batteries. I like to power whatever I can through the camera instead of using external batteries, because if I have to think about too many camera batteries while I'm filming, I get distracted and then I miss the shot, and it actually affects my work. So, plugging in this D-tap as well. I'm going to put on the matte box now. The reason why I like this matte box is because it's very lightweight. It's from Wooden Camera, and just as a side note, you may notice that I cover things up on the camera with tape. I don't like to see brands, so I cover them up with tape. On the front here it says Wooden Camera, and on the side it does. And a lot of these things have logos on them that I've covered up. So I like this because it can take 3 filters, and you put them in through the front, and this is so lightweight that it doesn't affect the camera very much. It also acts as lens support because the lens fits right in there. This lens is a 50 to 100 millimeter lens, and I really love that range for most things. So now I'm going to power it up. The first thing I always do is I leave the camera like this when it's not being powered. I usually take the batteries off as well. And the first thing I'll do is plug in this back. I know it's on when the light's on. Power up the monitor and turn on the camera. And I'm going to, okay, this is powered on now. This has power. If I push power on these two guys, they both turn on. I just need to power up one. I push a button on this and it powers on. Now I know that this is attached. With this handle, with this finger, I control the focus, and with my thumb in the back, I control the zoom. And then on the front here with this finger, I push stop and start recording. So typically, everything's happening here. Now, the way I normally film with this, I don't put it on my shoulder like this because I'm tall, and so if I had this on my shoulder, the shots are normally too high. I usually shoot from the hip. I like my camera down here. Unfortunately though, the camera is too heavy, and so I use an easy rig, so I'll grab that. I love the easy rig. If I am going to shoot from my shoulder, I will detach the arm from the back and put it onto shoulder grips on the front, and so I can control the camera like that. But typically, I'm down here, one hand on the matte box, one hand on the handle, and I'm ready to shoot off B-roll shots. This is my position. I can see the screen right here. I can control what I need to right from the screen. This is the way I like to film. I like the easy rig, and I like 2 hands on the camera, and I like to be able to pull focus and zoom with one hand from the back. One of the main reasons why I like to do it this way instead of hands-on with the lens is because when I touch the lens, it introduces vibrations, to the shot. And so I can find that I can film smoother shots this way, and it's easier for me. If your camera doesn't look like this, that's fine. It shouldn't. Everyone's cameras should be different because we're all different kinds of filmmakers. This can hold up to, I think, like 30 pounds or so, and that's about as heavy as this camera is. This is gonna change. It's always changing for me. I'm always adding new things to the rig or taking things away. So, it comes off very easily. This is how the camera is put onto the tripod. Done. Finished. I balance it, take it off, done. You don't want to be fiddling with a big camera like this. Having a big camera like this isn't about impressing everybody and making everybody think that you're a big deal. The reason why the camera looks like this is so I can have control over the camera, and so others can view what I'm seeing. And also the camera is bigger because it has XLR inputs. It has controls on the outside of the camera, and for the resolution that this camera is pumping out, and for everything, it needs fans, and the body has to be bigger. There's a reason why the camera looks like this. This isn't just made for no reason. Cinema cameras are big for a reason, and the reason is control. Control, control, control. Someday cameras might be smaller. I like my cameras to be heavier because when a camera is too light and you're using a cinema lens, there's micro jitters that are introduced. You know, you may ask, why don't you use a lens with image stabilization built in? Well, that's because the lens is doing the work for you, and it's taking some of your artistic vision and changing it a little bit, and it's doing what the lens wants to do instead of what you want to do. And I like to have authorship over my images, and I like them to be the way I want them to be. Now that you're done watching this video, please unsubscribe from this channel and leave a negative, mean comment. We always love seeing those. Other people will see your negative comments and realize that this video does suck, and that's very important to me. Okay, whatever, I'm done. Oh.